Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Yeah.
Happy short week Monday. This is Run It Back. I'm Michelle. We got Chandler P. Will. Gentlemen, how are we doing? Do you look tanner, oranger? What am I looking at, Chandler?
I am in Florida. I'm at my parents' house, and it's hot. It's hot.
There's your weather update with Chandler Parsons.
Humidity.
Thanks, buddy.
You grow up. I lived here 21 years. You come back, and the humidity really just smacks you in the face.
No, it's not good. But at least you're with family. You're having a good time. Will, we're going to get to a lot of basketball. We've got a lot of hot headlines. We do only have shows today and tomorrow, so we'll try to cram in as much news as possible. But we get started out in North Carolina. It's official. Chris Paul on Saturday, before the Clippers took on the Hornets, had a little social media post saying, back in North Carolina, what a ride. Still so much left. Grateful for this last one. And then, of course, Shams later on reporting, yep, he is retiring after the season. He's from Winston-Salem. Lou, you will always be connected as you guys were traded for each other, basically the same trade. He went to the Rockets. Tell me how you'll remember his career. We'll start now. We're going to start early, even though he's got a whole season.
I'll remember Chris as a peer. You know, not only were we traded for each other later in our careers, and throughout, we were same draft class in 2005. So this was somebody that I went to draft workouts with and got an opportunity to compete against. He was at Wake Forest, coming out of Wake. And I was a high school kid coming out at the time, trying to find my way. So this is somebody I competed with, you know, over 17 plus years in the NBA. You know, he's the only guy in our draft class that played longer than I did. I'm second place to him for his 21 years to my 17 out of our draft class. So ultimate competitor is going to go down as one of our steals leaders, going to go down as one of our assist leaders. You know, obviously the only thing that he didn't accomplish was winning a NBA championship. Other than that, he's well respected. He's going to go down as a Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame level guy, all of which he deserves. Top 75 player in this league. And he was the blueprint to a lot of these young point guards out here that wanted to learn how to lead a team, that wanted to be a leader, that wanted to be a franchise player at that point guard position. And that's how we will remember Chris Paul. He made friends. He turned some guys that were friends into foes. That's what type of competitor that he was. You know, he went about his business in only the way that CP3 could. And he's going to go down as a legend, as an icon, and one of the best players to play the position of point guard of all time for us.
Yeah, I mean, what an absolute legend. And he's one of those guys, too, when you watch him from afar and you don't know Chris Paul, you hate him. And it's because of how he competes and because how he played and because just everything that he brought to the game there. If you weren't on his team or you didn't know him personally, he's one of those guys that you couldn't stand. And I think that's a gift. I think he's going to be remembered as one of the top point guards of all time. Look at his resume: 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defense as a pass-first point guard. It's just super impressive. 2 gold medals with Team USA, and he's just a great dude. And I remember my rookie year, I met him. I'd always obviously known who he is, looked up to him. And I remember after the game, I see my dad, and my dad has the biggest smile on his face. And he's like, "You wouldn't believe who just came up to me." And I'm like, "Who?" He goes, "Chris Paul." Just like right when he walked out, you know, like we had the family passes. Chris Paul came up, introduced himself to my dad, and said how he loved my game, and he's going to be watching me for the rest of my career. Like that's the kind of stuff that no one really hears about Chris Paul. That when you go through it, you have a whole nother level of respect and appreciation for him. So outside of him being, you know, a top point guard of all time to ever play in the NBA, he's also a great dude off the court. He gets a bad rep.
Yep. And listen, a couple years ago, we were at a wedding. And, you know, he and I were having a conversation. I had just recently retired, and he was like, "Man, what's it like being on the outside looking in?" You know, he was kind of weighing his options at that moment because we start talking about our families. And, you know, I was coaching women's basketball at that time. I had begun to be active with my daughter's journey to being a basketball player. And he had the same with his daughter and his son. And, you know, he was just like, "Man, I'm missing too many moments. It's there at such a pivotal time in their lives." And I just feel like I was missing everything. So I felt like him going to Los Angeles, him being a Clipper was going to remedy a lot of that so he can be around his kids and be a part of their journeys. And now that to know that this is coming to a close and his son is actually, turning into a prep star as well, I'm happy for Chris and I'm happy for his family. And I hope that he finds peace in his 21 years as one of the best basketball players ever after it's all said.
That's how you know. That's how you know we're old, Lou. I remember that kid was a baby. Now he's one of the top. Man, it goes fast.
Is he little? Is his son like how?
No, he's a teenager now.
No, but is he a tall kid or is he like?
He's taller than Pops. I tell you that he's taller than Pops, and he got a shot. He can actually play. So that's a great thing. He can actually hoop. So
I like this. Spurs fans will forever ever never smile at him for Game 7, 2015. So it's a tough one. You're right, Chandler. If he's not on your team. Oh my gosh, just a spur. Like, oh, all right, let's do the rankings. We have to. We won't go Kenyon Martin style and name 200 of them, but where is he on the point guards of all time list for you? I mean, it's a pretty serious list of names.
Yeah. I mean, you got to put Steph and Magic ahead of him. And then there's guys like Nash and the guys that have MVPs, the guys that have won championships, but I think he's top 10 for sure. And you can argue top 5. I mean, look at all his numbers again. We went through his resume already, but 12 All-Stars, 11 All-NBA, on the top 75 team, 9 All-Defense, 6 times, steals leader, 5 times assist leader. You talk about the gold medal, you talk about Rookie of the Year. So, I mean, he has just checked every single box in every phase of his career and has done it, in a classy way. And the only thing he's missing is that championship. And it's I hate that he's probably not going to get one on the Clippers this year. And because that's really the icing on the cake for such a Hall of Fame career. That's my kid going nuts. But again, I'm happy for him. And like Lou said, I know he's getting into golf. He's joined Sherwood. He's got a place in Cabo. This makes perfect sense for him to kind of hang up with this, be with his family, and enjoy a great life he's made for himself. So top 5, top 10 for sure.
Yeah. For me, you can't move Magic and you can't move Steph. After that, it's all subjective to me. It's about personal preference at that point. What was your style? What were you a fan of? And Chris is going to be one of those guys. He's going to be in that conversation. When you look around, like Jason Kidd was one of my personal favorites. It'll be people that out there that want to argue me up and down. Why do you pick Jason Kidd as your number one? Chris Paul is going to be a lot of that for a lot of different guys, and even kids in a lot of different generations. If you were in those early from 2005 to 2015, you either like Chris Paul or you like Rajon Rondo or one of those two guys. They were the two heads of the point guard race at that time until Steph Curry came into his own and emerged as one of the greatest players of all time. So like Chandler said, you're either going to rank Chris Paul in your top 5 or your top 10 or your top 3. Nonetheless, he's not moving nowhere near an 11 or 12 or anything like that. He's going to be remembered as one of the greatest point guards of all time, wherever on your list he lands for yourself personally.
Yeah. And obviously, like Blob City, you think of DeAndre Jordan, you think of Blake Griffin, but none of that happens without Chris Paul because he was the one throwing those lobs, and he kind of invented that whole situation. So that was one of the most fun, electric teams to watch, and it was a lot of reasons because Chris Paul just throwing crazy dimes. And
Chris getting hurt in Houston, that hurt their playoff. They hurt their finals chance as well. He gets hurt in Houston, and that derails everything. That shows you how important that he was to these organizations that he played for.
So let's concentrate on finals. I know JJ Redick had a little joke about, hope he never wins a title because that would mean the Clippers won, the Lakers didn't. Probably not in the cards this season. Something crazy would have to happen. But that being said, Lou, the fact that he will have finished a 21-year career with no championship, what does that do to one's legacy in this case?
Nothing. He's going to be celebrated, and he deserves everything. Winning a title is not easy in the NBA. They're just not handed out, and you got to be at the right place at the right time. You got to have the right tools. You got to have everything go in your favor, and you even got to have some luck to go along with that as well. And we just talked about it. Injuries, different situations, the Clippers, and it being talked about. All of these guys, they do interviews and they talk on podcasts about what could have been and everything that wasn't right. All of those things don't go on Chris Paul's shoulder, and they don't go on to his legacy as a player. So for him to not have an NBA championship, You would love to see it, but there's also a special group of guys at that point guard position that can have this conversation. A lot of the greats that we do talk about in this conversation, they also don't have championships. It's a very elite group of point guards that was able to accomplish it, was able to get it over. But as far as his legacy is concerned, he's going to be celebrated as one of the top 75 players to ever play the position. When you talk about defense and being present on the defensive end, Chris Paul was that, and a steals leader. When you talk about getting your team involved and being the head of the snake and being able to put guys in the positions to be successful, he's going to go down as one of our assist leaders of all time. Obviously, he would love to have a championship. It just didn't go his way, but I don't think this taints his legacy at all.
Yeah, no matter what, we're talking about a first ballot Hall of Fame. The second he qualifies, the second he is there. And he is, again, you can't talk about the great point guards in the history of the NBA, and it's not going to be long until you bring up the name Chris Paul. So a championship would have been nice. There's a lot of guys, the Charles Barkleys, Allen Iversons. We're going to talk about a guy who went berserk on Sunday, James Harden. That's all he's missing. It's really change. I mean, it might change the ranking when we're looking at historical players and based on that and careers. But as far as impact and basketball, I mean, contract guy made over $400 million in his career. Like he has checked every box. It's just that I know deep down he obviously wants that because that is why we play. That is the ultimate goal. But when you have such a great long career like Chris Paul, it doesn't really change much to me.
Fair enough. There'll be lots of time to talk about him throughout the rest of the season. We do have a little mini beef that took place over the weekend. This was fun. Grizzlies beat Dallas, and then there are some words between Ja Morant and Klay. Took a shot at Klay, saying to his teammate Cam Spencer, tell him who the best shooter in the house was. It wasn't Bro from Golden State. And so Klay had something to say about that afterwards. Here he is.
And then with Ja, he's a funny guy. He has a lot to say all the time, especially for a guy who rarely takes accountability. But you know what? That's for another day.
What did Ja have to say on this occasion?
Nothing of intelligent depth. It was really just his just running his mouth, and he's been running his mouth for a long time. And it's funny to run your mouth when you're on the bench. It's kind of the story of his career so far, just leaving us wanting more,
Ooh, that's a good line at the end because it's like it's like, hey, you're awesome, but Chandler, what'd you think of this? It is, but it's not.
It's a compliment. It's a backhanded compliment. I think it's well said. Again, I hate that we're talking about Ja Morant and the negative headline, and somehow he finds himself again something other than basketball, other than him being spectacular on the court, dunking on somebody, catching a lob, winning a game winner. Like, why are we always talking about Ja Morant, something outside of basketball or anything positive? So that's the only issue I have with this. I love what Klay said back to him. Klay's obviously struggling this season. The Mavs are an absolute dumpster fire this season. But this goes back to Golden State years. There's been beef here for a while with Dylan Brooks and the Warriors, Ja Morant and the Warriors. This has been going on for years now. So clearly it boiled over, and I'm with Klay on this one. I think Ja needs to just focus on getting healthy and getting along with his head coach and finding peace playing basketball instead of doing things like this, making headlines for anything other than basketball. So I love the competitiveness. I love the rivalry. I love everything about it, but I just wish Ja Morant would mature at some point and stop doing stupid shit that's going to keep him in the headlines for bad things.
You know what? Listen, Chandler, when we start having these arguments with players and our competitors, we go to the numbers. We go to the resume after that. And once we go to the resume, we decide if you qualify to even have this banter with me, whether you qualify to even have this talk with me. We're not going to forget about who Klay Thompson was and who he can quite possibly still be. We're not gonna forget that. He's gonna go down as one of the greatest shooters of all time. I don't care who had a hot night. Klay Thompson had a hot career, and he's going to be regarded as such when it comes to shooting the basketball. If this was all of this is all about, was somebody that was shooting the basketball, and I know it came down to what Klay felt like was a dirty play on his teammate and this and that, but I'm agreeing with y'all. Listen, Ja, We don't listen to nobody in street clothes. You in street clothes and you're not available, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear you talking. We don't want to hear you telling nobody that they not the best shooter in the house. And that's just how it is. And Ja knows that when guys are in street clothes and they talking trash and he's on the court, we're not trying to hear it. No special rules for Ja Morant. And we want to see him back on the floor. So, Klay said it. He's always leaving us with that feeling that we want more out of you on the basketball court. I want to see when the next time these two teams match up and both of these guys are in uniform and they can go back and forth from there. So
I'll tell you this.
The accountability line was good too, by the way. Like Klay doesn't talk much like that.
Yeah.
So
Klay, you never really see Klay riled up like this. That's what I'm saying. This has been years and years. This is blowing over. They're both frustrated. They're both not having the greatest seasons. Their teams are struggling. So I agree with everything Lou just said too. If you're not on the floor backing it up, if you're in the team jumpsuit, like be quiet and cheer on your team. And again, if Steph Curry never existed, we're talking about the greatest shooter of all time, and you're comparing him to some dude that no one's heard of on your team.
Yeah, I
get
can't
it.
with this.
It's good, but like,
yeah. But listen, I don't want to disrespect Cam Spencer.
I'm gonna.
That's not no. But you're gonna let him disrespect Klay Thompson?
Cam Spencer didn't ask for none of this.
No, he's kind of used as a pawn.
You don't have to play his name because he didn't ask for this. He didn't ask for it. So we're not going to disrespect Cam.
You're going to throw him under the bus.
He ain't no damn Klay Thompson. He ain't no Klay Thompson. We know that.
You're not coming after Klay Thompson. Besides, I also watched Cam Spencer last week do this after every play. I can't with him right now. Like you're on a timeout.
And also, by the way, Klay Thompson is like, he's the best. He's the greatest dude. He comes, awesome. He stays in his lane. Like you're picking the battle with the wrong guy.
Like he's also got a very high profile love life going on right now. And I'm sure there's some things that are whispered about that, whatever.
No more dating, no more on this show.
I don't care. She's the sexiest person I've ever seen. There, I said it. I speak for myself.
Lou, what's your take on their relationship, Lou? Can we dive into that?
Here we go.
What relationship?
Keep it moving. Here we go. We'll go James Harden. I don't want to go down that road again. Okay, James Harden, I see you with your 55. Still a little bit of the headlines for Chris Paul's result, but franchise record 55 for the Clippers, tied for most points of the season so far with SGA and Jokic. Also the 50th point game of his career, which now ties him with Kobe for third most in history, behind Wilt and MJ. No big deal. Okay, let's just do that. Fourth oldest player in the history of this league to record 55 or more points, which is kind of crazy as well. Both you guys played, like you've been around, you've seen him, you've been on the floor with him, Chandler. What'd you make of the 55 on Saturday?
Not surprised. I mean, this dude's been doing this for so many years. He's the best scorer I've ever played with. He's the best scorer I've ever seen. Like when you get an NBA rule basically changed and the foul calls because of your innovativeness and because of your creativity, like you're different. And this guy has always been different, coming out of Arizona State from a bench player to a six man to an absolute bucket to now transformed himself into one of the better point guards the last 5-7 years in the NBA as a true scorer. Just to do a seamless switch to point guard is a gift. And he's unbelievable the way he creates contact, the way he kind of lulls you to sleep and steps back. He is one of the greatest scorers of all time. And it's not even a debate. The way he's so versatile, the way he gets downhill, gets to the rim, it's crazy. He didn't have a right hand his entire career, and still would somehow get back to that left. Still get finished with his left hand on the right side. Still would find ways to score. With the whole scouting report is to make him go right and to not foul him, and he continued to do them all consistently throughout his career. So I'm not surprised at all with this night because he's been doing this for years and he's just so creative. He's so smart. He's stronger and bigger than he looks on TV. And he's one of the most creative scorers in the history of the NBA. So it doesn't surprise me. And the efficiency, 17 of 26, 11 for 14 from the free throw line, 10 for 16 from the three-point line. There's no real way of stopping him other than double teaming him and getting the ball out of his hands. So he's one of the greatest scorers the game's ever seen. And I'm not surprised at all by this performance. And the Clippers are going to need a lot more of these.
Yeah, they are. I mean, look, they got Kawhi back, which is crazy. That was only yesterday. They didn't have him Saturday, which I think is crazy that we haven't even really touched on that. However, the championship ring, all that argument forever, it was probably more for fans than anything else. But 2 weeks ago, Paul Pierce said that if Harden had won a championship so far, that we'd actually be having some bigger, broader conversations about where he ranks all time, Lou. Are you buying that if the title had been present, that this would be a different conversation with James Harden?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you look at all of the elite two guards in the league or in history. Let's go with history. We're talking about MJ. We're talking about Kobe. We're talking about D Wade. All of those guys are championship caliber. So when they have championships under their belt, you have no choice but to rank behind them. As far as everything else, James Harden checks all of the boxes. All-stars, MVPs, all-time scoring list, all of those things. They all check out. The only thing that was elusive to James Harden is a championship. That's the only thing that's going to stop him from being in this conversation. So you know, I agree with Paul. You know, he's going to be on the list, but it's hard to rank him one or two when you have some of the all-time greats. You know, and you look at his peers. All of his peers around him, they got championships on their clock. You know, KD got his championships. Kyrie got his championships. Guys who were teammates with him, they eventually went on to get championships. Guys that were in, you know, his peer class, you know, the Steph Currys and all of those things, they went on to get championships. That's going to be the only thing in his legacy that's going to be elusive to stop him from being one of the all-time greats when we start talking about top 5 and top 10 in those conversations. That's the only thing that would stop James Harden. But again, all of these lists and where do people rank all time is all subjective. It's all about your personal preference. None of it is real. None of these lists are factual in any way possible or any context. But James Harden is a top 75 talent. He's going to go down as such, very similar to Chris Paul. But when you start chopping everything down and going list for list, line for line, resume for resume, championships is that one main thing that everybody cares about. And unfortunately, he doesn't have one yet. So that puts him in a certain place when it comes to conversations when you start talking about guys' legacies.
Yeah, I mean, well said. It's the same conversation as Chris Paul, right? It's you have everything, you have longevity, you have points, you have all that and more. You're just going to get docked a little bit for the championship. And Lou made a great point. When you look at the greatest shooting guards of all time, it's MJ, Kobe, and D Wade, and then it's James Harden, even without a championship. So that's how good he's been. That's how consistent he's been. There's been a stigma about reputation and him enjoying his life off the court, not practicing.
Who cares?
That's a whole other conversation. Who cares? This guy is productive. He has been consistent. He's been rather healthy his whole career too. It's just pretty crazy. So he's had a hell of a career. Also, first ballot Hall of Fame. And he's one of those guys that you just love watching play basketball. And his left hand just looks better.
You and your left hand looks better thing. It's just
is he the greatest lefty of all time? Wow. Ginobili, him.
We can
Paul
make
McCartney.
that case.
There's probably an old head that we're missing. That's like David Robinson.
You're 100%. Yeah, Paul McCartney plays the guitar left-handed, unless I'm wrong.
You don't play basketball. What are we talking about?
First of all, you don't know what Sir Paul McCartney can and cannot do.
I know what he can't do.
Young people, Google it.
He can't play basketball.
I don't know that, and I'm not willing to go out on that limb.
Bill Russell was left-handed. How about that, Lou? You learn something new every day.
Who's telling you this? Where are you getting this from? Is it in your ear?
Sorry, I got people.
Dang, you got voices? Okay. All right, let's take a quick break.
Bill Russell was left-handed.
Okay, shut up. Charlotte. We're going to Charlotte next on the other side. We'll be right back.
Run it back, run it up, run it back.
Well, let's keep looking around the league, shall we? Kelly Iko of Yahoo reporting that LaMelo Ball has grown frustrated and is open to a trade away from the Hornets. The front office is open to a deal. LaMelo's denying that report. Jake Fisher also adding that the Hornets are, quote, not actively looking to trade him. They just really willing to see what he looks like with the core pieces on the floor because they Brandon Miller back Saturday. So here we go. 4-13. They do seem like there are pieces there that are coming together and things are working out. And, you know, LaMelo Ball did the smart thing. He's like, I never said that. Whether or not an agent said it or not, that's up for dispute. But, Lou, what do you make of this murmuring that is now beginning to collect a little bit of steam out of Charlotte?
I wouldn't be mad either way. Even if he did grow frustrated and say that he would like to be traded or behind the scenes, you know, he's growing frustrated. You know, we're looking at 6 seasons here. Without a playoff appearance. Talent has come and gone in Charlotte. You still hadn't gotten very much out of it. And I like to see our young stars be in a position where they can be successful and compete at the highest level. And I've said this before on this show, LaMelo Ball being the best player on a team, that deserves a certain level of responsibility and people criticizing you for the shortcomings. But when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets, I don't think he deserves the brunt of where this has gone. You got to put a lot of talent around him. And now we're having a conversation about Brandon Miller coming back. We like Knipple and we like the other young cat that's on the Hornets. But we've seen these guys come and go. We've seen good, talented players in a Charlotte Hornets uniform come and go. There's no consistency there, and and look at this season. They're off to another slow start as an organization at 4-13, and now we're saying, well, let us get all of these pieces together. At some point, we got to start seeing the writing on the wall. We got to start seeing positive steps going towards that way for us to be convinced that this is the core group that can make it happen in Charlotte. And if it's not, I don't blame LaMelo Ball for looking around the league and say, hey, I wouldn't mind being in another scenario, being in another position. Now, I would like for him to tighten up some of the things that he does on the basketball court that we'll talk about that'll make him more efficient as a player, that'll give them a better opportunity to win basketball games. But if he's looking around the league and he's seeing some of the young stars that were peers of his having more success than him and being in better scenarios for their careers for the long run than him, I wouldn't be mad at all for him looking around and saying, I don't mind being one of those guys. But also, I criticize Ja Morant for talking out loud. This is the perfect way that you do it. You pay your agents millions of dollars, allow them to fight these fights for you behind the scenes. That's what they get paid to do. They get paid to have these conversations with organizations and putting their clients in the best positions possible. So let them talk. Until then, when you get back healthy, when you're back on the basketball floor, give your team the best opportunity to win games and just keep it quiet and go from there.
You know the other young guy's name on the Hornets. You just didn't want to say it.
What is it again?
I was talking too fast.
Yeah, I know they're not the names you want to do too fast. Say okay, thank you. That's your favorite player? You also love Grady Dick. You love like a lot of players.
You went out of your way to say Kalkbrenner is crazy work this Monday morning, by the way.
God, you're so immature.
Listen, I think LaMelo Ball, I don't think he'll ever reach his full potential in Charlotte on this team. And I don't think it's his fault. I think he does have some maturing to do on and off the court, but I think his talent is undeniable. I think he's all-world talent, 6'6", 6'7" point guard that has everything, right? He can handle, he can dime, he can score. The pieces around him I don't think are good enough. And I love Brandon Miller. I love the young rookie Knipple. Bridges is a solid piece, but I think for him to be his best possible version of himself, he doesn't need to be the best player. He's kind of in that Trae Young category where he can put up good numbers. He's an all-star. The one season he played over 70 games, he was an all-star, even on a bad team. He is that good. I think he'll take the next step when he gets moved to like a Houston, when he gets moved to like a team with other pieces to where he can just do his thing. He can dissect defenses. He can pick and choose when to be aggressive and take these long, crazy step back threes. Because he's also another guy that is so fun to watch, the way he handles, the way he passes. He's pure entertainment. So I do think he is a great talent. I do think he's going to continue to put up numbers on a bad team. This team has no business making the playoffs or contending for a championship soon, which is also a problem because you want to see LaMelo Ball playing on the biggest stage. You want to see him playing in the playoffs, and he never has. And it doesn't look like he will anytime soon in this situation. So I don't blame him for wanting to get out. I don't blame him, his agent, for saying he wants to get out. But I think for him to fully get the flowers and the respect that he deserves, he's got to win basketball games, and he just hasn't done that in his 6 years.
Can we please talk about the Detroit Pistons? It's just the best. It's the best. I love this story. I'll never stop loving it. They beat Milwaukee on Saturday, 12 straight for Detroit. They're just a victory away from matching the longest winning streak in franchise history, which was 1989-90 and 03-04, which is insane that we're doing streaks like this 2 years after the worst of all time. Okay, Chandler, do we take them seriously? Let's just start in the East. Can they go to the finals? Are we actually going to start saying that out loud without flinching?
Yes, I've seen enough, and you know what? Because it's their team. It is what it is, and it's not the most talented roster. It's not the deepest team. It's not household names. They're not a bunch of vet guys. Like there's just this combination of tough, hard-nosed guys that defend and they respect their head coach and they play hard. And nowadays, that'll get you in the door, and that'll get you with the game on the line. It'll be close, and they have an MVP candidate who we need to talk about more, Cade Cunningham, who's one of the better closers in the NBA. He's so clutch down the stretch. He can beat you in so many different ways. So yes, they are for real, because no matter what, if their offense is bogged down and slow that night, they can defend. They're going to play more physical than you. They're tougher than you. And they have the favorite to win Coach of the Year, JB Bickerstaff, who I think is one of the greatest coaches in the NBA. So they have that combination where they genuinely are having fun. They play unselfish. They know it is put the ball in Cade Cunningham's hands, and then any other thing happens is extra. There's Jaden Ivey's coming back. Jalen Duren has turned out to just be this absolute man-child. He just turned 22 years old. So they have all the pieces. And this summer, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think they made enough moves. I didn't think they made enough noise to kind of do what they're doing now. So it is somewhat surprising. But the Eastern Conference is so wide open. The Cavs are going to be there. The Knicks are kind of hot and cold. You know, the Raptors have been a bit of a surprise, but no one's really drinking that juice. There's no reason why I don't see the Pistons at least go in the Eastern Conference Finals this year with how wide open it is, and that's a big reason with Cade Cunningham.
But why not Toronto? And we're saying Detroit. They're 1-2, and we just
they're literally neighbors. Come on.
Yeah, the East is wide open, and my case for Detroit is I say why not? Everybody, listen, why not? They're in the front. They're the front runners at this time, and everybody else just is kind of okay. I think Detroit is the only team that's taking care of business. They finished their breakfast and they're 14-2. You know, all of these teams from 3 to 10, they've beaten each other, and it's kind of like a mix of who's in the middle of the pack. Detroit has separated themselves. Toronto has separated themselves. Outside of that, we don't really know. I think Miami wakes up at some point. I think Boston is good enough of a team and an organization. They have that pedigree where they can figure things out, maybe make some moves at the trade deadline to put them back in the conversation. I think once New York figures it out with their new coach and their new style, I think they figure it out. Cleveland, when they get healthy, they're still going to figure it out. I think they're still one of those teams that can go on a 15-0 run. They've showed us that. They can go on a 15-game winning streak. All of these things are at play, but Detroit is a consistent. Toronto is a consistent. So if they have title hopes, I say why not? They're playing like it. They have all of the pieces. You know, they might not pass the eye test when it comes to talent and names and, you know, everybody jumping off the paper when you want to look at a roster and say, I think this is a roster that can do it. I think they have the right mix of guys and it works for them. And like you said, they have an early candidate and coach of the year as well. All of the pieces are there in Detroit, you know, so I say why not? I'm not arguing that they can't. I say why not?
Yeah, the one thing I disagree with that you said is I think that Toronto has separated themselves. I think they're off to a great start. I still think Cleveland, Miami, Atlanta, New York, all the teams below them, I still think they're a better basketball team than Toronto. I used to think that about Detroit. I don't anymore. I feel like I've seen enough from last year to the growth to Detroit this year to the way they play, the style they play. I think that's more sustainable than Toronto. Now I'm hyped for their start. I think they're going to be a playoff team, but do I think the Toronto Raptors are going to finish a top 4 team? I really don't. But I do think the Pistons are there. I think the Pistons, worst case scenario, are the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference this year. But we talked about this all season long, Lou. Like, think about the right now, look at the standings. Like, the Boston Celtics are the 10th seed. They're 9-8. The Orlando Magic kind of underachieving, but I think they're going to figure it out and get better. The Bulls were this big surprise team that started off hot, but then kind of came back down to earth a little bit. Philly is kind of the big question. What are you going to get from Joel Embiid? What are you going to get from Paul George? But they have that dynamic backcourt. Like, there's no reason that Detroit can't just beat all those teams and are better than those teams. I just don't see that yet with Toronto, but Detroit, I'm sold. I think Cleveland's still the team to beat, but I think Detroit's right there. And I would love to see JB Bickerstaff go to Cleveland and knock them out of the playoffs as the head coach of Detroit.
Drama.
But all of those teams that you just mentioned, including the Boston Celtics at the 10 spot, they're a game and a half out of 3rd. Like, it's this. So this is they're a game and a half.
That's a scary 10 seed, the Boston Celtics.
They're a game and a half out of 3rd, and then you look at Toronto. Like this is why I look at Toronto. I can look at that roster and I can look at Ingram, I can look at Barnes and Quickly and Barrett and say, and Pirtle, I can look at those guys and say, you know what? They jump off the sheet. They jump off of the paper as one of those teams who have names that I feel like can sustain where they're in this position. But both of our points, the East is all over the place. We don't know what's what. We don't know what's real. This is still very early in the season and the sample size. And I told Chandler this in the production meeting last week. I don't start looking at teams and seeing who's real until after the All-Star break, because that's when your legs starting to get a little weary. You're dealing with injuries. You're dealing with some adversity at that point. Now we know what teams and what's real and what's not. Anybody can have some early success. I remember a year in Philadelphia where we the number one team in the East all year long, and we were the number one team in our division, get to the finish line, and we give it away to the Boston Celtics. And I'll never forget, we played them in the playoffs, and Kevin Garnett walks up to us and says, I appreciate y'all babysitting that number one spot for us. Appreciate that, little dogs. And that stuck with me over my career because, again, you don't know how good you are until you go through the weather, until you go through the storms, and you come out on the other end of it as just as equally successful. So I still have that. I still have that viewpoint for the Detroits and the Clevelands, and the Torontos, and some of these teams that are having, some surprises. Last year, Cleveland was that surprise team. It didn't work out. Now they're still right there in that 3 spot. I want to see them emerge as one of those top teams. But again, in the East, why not? Everybody's clustered up until somebody starts creating some separation.
Yeah, and I feel like more so than ever, the conference matters so much this year. Like if the Pistons were a West Conference team.
You got this. Yeah.
Western Conference team. I think the Thunder are a better team. I think the Nuggets are a better team. I think the Rockets are a better team. So it's hard. Yes, they're handling business, and they're one shy of a franchise record. Like they are doing their thing. They still got to come out of the Eastern Conference, but I think there's 5, 6, 7 teams in the Western Conference that they're going to possibly down the road beat in the finals that are just as good, if not better. There's a lot of basketball to be playing, but it's a great start for them. It's a hell of a story. I love the fact that we're talking about them so much early on, and it's for a reason, because they're rolling and they have MVP candidate and they have a Coach of the Year candidate and they're doing everything right. We just want to see more of it. We want to see it in the playoffs.
I'm glad we're talking about them in this manner. Listen, 2 short years ago, we were laughing and making jokes and saying they were god awful, and now look at this team, basically with the same core of guys. So kudos to them.
It's a hell of a turnaround. Like it's not common to see it so drastic, but here we are. All right, let's do a little Thunder talk, shall we? 17-1 is where they sit. 9 straight they've won. This is crazy. They beat the Blazers. They're one of 10 teams to start a season at 17-1 or better. But, and look, we can start to kind of pick things apart a little bit, try to find some sort of flaw, Lou. I mean, that's kind of where we are with this OKC team. Their early schedule here has been relatively easy in comparison to others, like some Pelicans, some Kings. There have been multiple wins there. Do we hold that again? Obviously, you beat who you beat.
Listen,
but does it matter to you?
Do we think OKC is scared of anybody on the schedule at all?
Doesn't matter who they play.
No one.
Do we think that they're scared of anybody? No, that doesn't matter. I think that comes with the spoils of being a champion. And look at how they opened the season. They could have came in this season with a championship hangover and not take it seriously. You're looking at a team even hungrier this season than they were last season. They even started the season with 2 double overtime wins, and they got through it. Any other team would have folded and said it's just early in the season. We can throw this one away. That's not OKC's. That's not their focus. That team is focused on winning another championship, and they're trying to beat any team that's in front of them, whether it's a team that's at the end of the standings or at the beginning of the standings. Anybody in their way, they're gonna try to knock them out and try to win a basketball game. So I don't care. I don't care about their schedule. It's not misleading at all to me. They're going to be just as dominant if you were to put the league's top teams in there, and they're going to compete at the highest level. We just talked about the Eastern Conference and creating separation. It's the OKC Thunder and everybody else way down the list. They've created so much competitive separation from everybody else. I don't care what their schedule says. And they got to play everybody anyways, and I think they're going to be just as dominant playing against the rest of the league.
Yeah, them more so than anybody, but we like to look at the schedule. Is it a favorable schedule? Like if I name Lou, if I went through the schedule right now, their next 15 games, you would say it's a win on all of them. So it doesn't matter, like you
It
said,
doesn't matter
it
who's
doesn't
there.
matter
Yeah.
who they line up against. If they play their game, they are going to win their game, win that game, or put themselves in the best situation to do that. So their schedule, again, light, hard, whatever, back to back, does not matter because this team is capable. This team is deep enough, young enough to handle any schedule that's thrown their way. So that is the good thing for them. And I did say a couple weeks ago, I think they're capable of going 31, 32, and 3 in the first 35 games. And it's very possible based on looking at this schedule. But like we're saying, it doesn't matter who they play because if they do their thing and it doesn't matter. So they have a chance to win just by stepping on the floor. So this team's unbelievable. I think we're in for a real treat. I think it's going to be a historic season for these guys because again, they're so young. There's no real load management. There's no they don't care back to backs because they'll just throw in
still wait.
Never heard of and they'll have 17 and 8. Like it doesn't matter. And they're 17 and 1 and they're the youngest, best team in the NBA.
And you still haven't gotten Jalen Williams back. You're going to get him back at some point, which is
they're 17 and 1 without their all-star, all
make them even more dangerous. Yeah,
That's
and listen, and they're
absurd.
ahead of schedule. By now, we said they'd have lost 2 or 3 games, and so them only having 1, they can put a couple of these in the bank to still have an opportunity to make NBA history, like the Golden State Warriors did. So they're ahead of schedule.
Think about taking off the second best player on every team outside of them. Do you think they'd be 17 and 1? Like take off Sengun on the Rockets, take off Jamal Murray on the Nuggets. No, they would probably be below 500. Like it's crazy how deep this team is.
Absolutely. Well, we should break that down on another day because actually there's an argument to be made there. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We have more Run It Back on the other side.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back.
Well, we got some Say What from around the league. Our buddy Anthony Slater reporting that Jonathan Kuminga once again is feeling like he's the scapegoat because the season started at 6-6 and now he's been benched. This does just feel like a really bad Groundhog Day movie. But Chandler, what do you make of the idea that he feels like this again?
I don't love it. And I love the contract this summer because it kind of gave them each a two-way, runway to figure it out, to kind of showcase him, to keep him as a trade asset without overpaying him if I'm the Warriors. But I don't think this is going to be a full-time permanent, spot for Jonathan Kuminga. I think he's not valued here. I think him and Steve Kerr are always going to butt heads just on offensive sets and flow. And it's never about talent with Jonathan Kuminga. And I think it drives Kerr nuts that he doesn't remember plays. He takes bad shots. He takes shots early in the shot clock, all the things that don't really fit that DNA and that free flow and offense and extra pass, swing. That's not Jonathan Kuminga's expertise. And he's an athlete. He gets out in transition. He's had his highs and lows here, but I just feel like it's fit wise. I don't think it's ever going to last. So I'm not surprised he feels like the scapegoat. Obviously, when he plays, he's productive. He's what is he averaging? 14, 6, and it's. I just feel like he could be doing so much more somewhere else, and I just don't think this is ever going to feel like home. This is never going to feel like his franchise. I mean, like you hear Paz talking crazy how he wants to pass the torch to him. Kuminga's never felt that way. Kuminga's never even said something close to that. He just wants to play. This just doesn't feel like it's going to be his team. And I think they'll obviously continue to monitor him and shop him, but he's too good to be playing this little and getting benched, in my opinion.
Chandler, do you think Kuminga is more of a star DNA type of guy opposed to being a role player? And maybe that's why we're kind of having these issues.
Yeah, I think he wants to be that. I think he thinks if he was in a Charlotte or a Washington, he'd be averaging 26 points a game right now, and he'd be getting his game off. Now, is that who he is on a good team and on a contending team? No, but I just don't think he's an offensive fit for this Warriors team, for the way they play, the way they move, run and gun, shoot, screen, slip. That's not who he is. And again, I think they'd find ways to use him and utilize him to his strengths and have him come off the bench and kind of run the offense through him, let him handle, let him get out in transition. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked. It hasn't fit. And he probably does feel like the scapegoat because he does get benched. He just straight up gets DMPs, CDs after he played the night before and had 23 points. He's probably like, shit, what else can I do to get more minutes and to earn some trust? And I just don't think it's ever going to happen there. I really don't.
It's a very weird story. It's a weird story. Like it feels like such a waste.
He's too good. He's too talented.
Yeah, like figure it out.
Playing to be getting benched. Like they're playing Quentin Post. Like no disrespect. That guy plays like he's getting real minutes. Like he's got Steve Kerr's trust more than Jonathan Kuminga. Like I don't get it.
Maybe it's just a fit thing. Maybe it's a fit thing.
Sometimes we just don't like people. It happens. But it does suck that you're stuck there. Like I feel for the kid. Like
well,
then let's
listen,
move him.
What I've learned though in this business, even if you don't like people, if they can play and they fit, they're going on the floor and they're gonna play. We're gonna put our personal feelings aside. Business is business. So even if Steve Kerr doesn't like him, if he felt like he can compete and he could help them win basketball games and he was a good fit, Jonathan Kuminga is gonna play. So at this point, all of the fit conversations and he's just not the guy. He got his money. Let him take it somewhere else with him and let him be a star somewhere. I like the fact that Chandler said it. I think this guy's a star, and he probably just wants to be a star somewhere. He doesn't want to be second fiddle to anybody at this point of his career. He want to flourish, and he want to let his wings grow and go out there and do his thing. So maybe at this point.
I know, but it's going to be a lousy team. It's going to be big fish, small pond. Like that's going to be a different kind of misery. Like there's just, it's all relative. Listen,
some guys like that too, though, Beadle. Some guys wouldn't mind going to average 25 on a bad team.
It's also the Warriors are hanging on. The Warriors are hanging on for life right now. They're one game above 500, so they're an average team themselves too.
Which is why this is frustrating to me. Like, can't we figure this out? I don't get it. But that's all right. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we got a little Kobe talk, believe it or not, in the year 2025. Face of the league talk, y'all.
Run it up, run it back, run it up.
So Paul Pierce said that Kobe was never the face of the league. It basically went from MJ probably to Shaq. There's a little Iverson in there. Lou, do you agree that Kobe was never the face of the league?
It didn't feel like that to me. And I've always said that the league has never been one person. There's always been multiple guys as the face of the league. I mean, if you have one face of the league, usually there's a guy that they're pinning against him to be competitive with. And that, it was a lot of different guys at that time. You can make that argument. But Kobe Bryant was definitely one of them. I don't think that there's ever been a time where it's just been one guy. They've always had a rival at some point, with the exception of like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, the clear-cut face of the league. Other than that, in this new era, there's always been a multitude of guys, from Kobe Bryant to D. Wade at one point, to Shaq at one point, to Allen Iverson, so on and so forth. But, Kobe has always been in that conversation. And, through his trials and his triumphs, that's another conversation, how that affected some of those things. But there was a time in 2010, 2011, I want to say, Kobe Bryant was on top of the world. So to make the case that he's never been the face of the league, I disagree with Paul on that one.
Yeah, it's hard to say he wasn't the face just because how popular he was and how known he was. And I feel like the peak of his individual career never matched up with the greatness of his actual team. So like they were just out of line a little bit. But when I think of the NBA, I'm thinking of Kobe Bryant. I'm thinking of him rather quick. So I see both sides. But again, face of the league, like LeBron, Steph Curry, MJ, those names come to my mind before Kobe Bryant. But it's hard to overlook him, and it's hard to not say he was one of the faces when everybody on the planet knows who Kobe Bryant is.
Yeah.
And I think if we switch the logo to Kobe Bryant, I don't think anybody would have a problem.
When he got that 5th championship, who else were they talking about? It was Kobe and LeBron. That was it. That was the matchup everybody wanted to see.
It's becoming blurry.
Like I said, if you switch the logo to Kobe, I don't think many people would be bothered by that.
They run it back, yeah.